It was just another night shift at the school, but something felt off. The hallways were darker than usual, the silence heavier. My footsteps echoed as I made my rounds, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The date, March 6, 2024, didn't seem significant at the time, but looking back, it marked the beginning of something eerie. As I walked past the old library, a faint noise caught my attention. It sounded like whispering, but there was no one around. My pulse quickened as I approached the source. The door to an unused classroom was slightly ajar. I pushed it open slowly, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. On one of the dusty desks lay an old, tattered diary. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed with age. Intrigued, I picked it up and flipped through the pages. The handwriting was neat but shaky, each entry filled with an uneasy energy. One particular entry stood out, detailing strange events that occurred in the school after midnight. I felt a chill run down my spine. The diary's warnings seemed eerily relevant. Determined to uncover more, I continued reading, my anxiety growing with each page. The entries spoke of unexplained noises, fleeting shadows, and a pervasive sense of dread. I couldn't help but feel that the diary was meant for me to find, a guide to the mysteries lurking in the school shadows. As I closed the diary, a sense of unease settled over me. The thought that these strange occurrences could happen tonight filled me with both fear and curiosity. Holding the diary tightly, I decided to investigate further, determined to uncover the truth behind the haunting words. With the old diary clutched in my hand, I felt a mix of fear and determination. The dim corridors seemed to stretch endlessly as I made my way to the school's basement. Each step echoed ominously, and the air grew colder the further I descended. My flashlight flickered, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. The basement door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into the darkness. I hesitated for a moment, but the curiosity sparked by the diary pushed me forward. The air was damp and musty, and every sound seemed amplified in the confined space. As I reached the bottom, I noticed a faint light coming from a room at the end of the hall. Inside the room, I found old school records and forgotten supplies. The shelves were covered in dust, untouched for years. On a small table in the corner lay an envelope with my name on it. My heart pounded as I opened it and read the contents. The note inside was written in the same handwriting as the diary and contained a single, chilling sentence: "Beware the shadows after midnight." The clock on the wall read 11:45 p.m. I had 15 minutes to make sense of the warning. The air grew heavier, and a sense of dread settled over me. Determined to uncover more, I searched the room for additional clues. My flashlight illuminated a hidden door behind a stack of old textbooks. The door was slightly ajar, and a cold draft seeped through the gap. I pushed the door open, revealing a hidden passage that seemed to extend endlessly into the darkness. The walls were lined with strange symbols and markings, unlike anything I'd seen before. The diary's warnings echoed in my mind, urging me to proceed with caution. I stepped into the passage, my footsteps echoing in the narrow space. As I ventured deeper, the sense of being watched intensified. Shadows seemed to dance on the walls, moving just out of the corner of my eye. The air grew colder, and my breath came in shallow gasps. Just as the clock struck midnight, a whispering voice filled the air, sending a chill down my spine. The haunting words seemed to come from all directions, enveloping me in a sense of impending doom. The whispering voice grew louder, reverberating through the narrow passage. I pressed forward, each step filled with both dread and determination. The cold draft became a biting chill, and the walls seemed to close in around me. My flashlight flickered again, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. Suddenly, the passage opened into a large, dimly lit room. The walls were lined with old, faded photographs and newspaper clippings. In the center of the room stood a single, flickering candle on a wooden table. The flame cast long, wavering shadows that made the room seem alive. I approached the table, noticing an old photo album next to the candle. I opened the album, revealing a collection of photographs that chronicled the school's history. As I turned the pages, I saw familiar faces: teachers, students, and staff members, some of whom I recognized from my time at the school. But the further back I went, the more unsettling the images became. The last few pages were filled with dark, blurry photos, as if taken in a hurry. A chill ran down my spine as I recognized one of the blurry figures. It was the same ghostly figure I'd seen in the basement earlier. My hands trembled as I flipped to the final page. There, written in the same elegant, shaky handwriting as the diary, was a warning. The truth lies beneath the school. Only the brave will find it. Determined to uncover the truth, I scanned the room for any additional clues. My eyes landed on a trapdoor in the corner, partially hidden beneath an old rug. I pulled the rug aside and heaved the trapdoor open, revealing a steep staircase descending into darkness. The air that wafted up was stale and cold, filled with the scent of damp earth. As I descended the staircase, the whispering voices returned, more insistent and urgent than before. The walls of the underground chamber were lined with ancient, cryptic symbols that seemed to pulse with an eerie glow. My flashlight's beam cut through the darkness, revealing a small stone altar at the center of the chamber. On the altar lay an old, leather-bound book. I approached the altar, my heart pounding in my chest. The book seemed to emanate a dark energy, and I hesitated before touching it. Gathering my courage, I picked up the book and opened it, revealing pages filled with strange, indecipherable text. As I tried to make sense of the words, the air grew colder, and the whispering voices grew louder, forming a cacophony that threatened to overwhelm me. The cacophony of whispers surrounded me, almost deafening in its intensity. The strange text in the book seemed to shift and change before my eyes, making it impossible to read. I could feel an ominous presence in the room, as if the shadows themselves were watching me. My breath came in shallow gasps as the temperature continued to drop. I forced myself to focus, trying to block out the whispers and the cold. The diary's warnings echoed in my mind, urging me to stay strong. I traced the symbols on the pages with my fingers, hoping for some insight. Suddenly, a section of the wall opposite the altar slid open, revealing another hidden passage. With the book in hand, I stepped into the new passage. It was narrower and darker than the previous one, the walls pressing in on me from both sides. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. As I moved forward, the whispers grew softer but more sinister, like a dark lullaby. The passage led to a small chamber lit by a single, eerie blue light. In the center of the room stood a tall figure cloaked in shadow, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized this was the source of the whispers. The figure gestured towards a stone pedestal, where an ancient key rested. The figure's presence was overwhelming, filling the room with a sense of dread. But I knew this was the moment the diary had warned about. Summoning all my courage, I approached the pedestal and reached for the key. As my fingers closed around the cold metal, the whisper stopped abruptly, plunging the room into an oppressive silence. The figure stepped closer, its glowing eyes piercing into my soul. I held up the key, unsure of what to do next. The figure pointed towards another door at the back of the chamber. Taking a deep breath, I moved towards the door, the key fitting perfectly into the lock. As I turned the key, a bright light flooded the room, blinding me momentarily. When my vision cleared, I found myself back in the school's basement, the hidden passages and chambers gone. The air was warmer, and the oppressive atmosphere had lifted. In my hand, I still held the ancient key. The diary's final entry echoed in my mind. The brave will find the truth. I realized that I had uncovered the school's darkest secret, and, in doing so, had broken its hold on the building. As I stood in the now ordinary basement, a sense of relief washed over me. The oppressive atmosphere that had hung so heavily in the air was gone, replaced by a calm stillness. I looked down at the ancient key in my hand, feeling its weight and significance. The school's dark secrets had been unveiled, and the haunting presence seemed to have lifted. I made my way back up the basement stairs, my footsteps no longer echoing with ominous dread. The hallways, which had felt so foreboding just moments before, now seemed almost welcoming. The flickering lights had stabilized, and the eerie silence had been replaced by the gentle hum of the school's electrical systems. As I walked past the classrooms, I glanced into the one where I had first found the diary. The desk where it had lain was now clear, as if the diary had never been there. I couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment and closure. The whispers, the shadows, and the dark secrets had been confronted and dispelled. I decided to leave the key and the diary in the principal's office, where they could be safely stored away. As I placed them on the principal's desk, I noticed a note addressed to me. It was written in the same elegant, shaky handwriting as the diary. The note read, "Thank you for your bravery. The school is now at peace." Feeling a sense of fulfillment, I left the principal's office and stepped outside into the crisp night air. The stars shone brightly overhead, and the moon cast a gentle glow over the school grounds. The date, March 6th, 2024, would forever be etched in my memory as the night I faced and conquered the unknown. As I walked towards my car, I couldn't help but smile. The fear and anxiety that had gripped me earlier were now replaced with a deep sense of peace and accomplishment. I had uncovered the truth and freed the school from its haunting past. The experience had changed me, instilling in me a newfound courage and resilience. Driving away from the school, I felt a profound sense of closure. The journey through the dark passages and eerie chambers had been harrowing, but ultimately rewarding. I knew that the school would no longer be plagued by its dark history, and the students and staff could go about their days without fear. I had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, and for that, I was grateful. It was a cold night, and my shift at the school had just begun. The halls were unusually silent, and the air felt heavy. As I patrolled the corridors, I heard a faint, haunting melody. It was December 11th, 2022, a date I wouldn't soon forget. The music seemed to come from one of the classrooms that should have been locked. Drawn by curiosity, I approached the source of the sound. The door to the music room was slightly ajar, and I hesitated before pushing it open. Inside, I found an old record player on a dusty desk, spinning a vinyl record. The music crackled with age, filling the room with an eerie, nostalgic tune. The records on the shelf were covered in dust, untouched for years. I felt a chill as I noticed the dates on the labels, each one from decades past. The song playing was unfamiliar, yet it felt strangely personal, as if it was meant just for me. I reached out to stop the record, but a sense of unease made me pause. My flashlight flickered, casting long shadows across the room. I scanned the area, half expecting to see someone or something lurking in the corners. The music continued to play, its haunting melody echoing in the empty school. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the music was a signal or a warning. Determined to uncover the mystery, I began to search the room. My eyes landed on a stack of old photographs and letters on a shelf. As I sifted through them, I found a picture of the school staff from the 1970s. My heart skipped a beat when I saw a familiar face, my own. It didn't make any sense, yet there I was, standing among people I'd never met. The discovery of my own face in the decades-old photograph left me reeling. How could I be in a picture from the 1970s? My heart pounded as I tried to make sense of it. The haunting melody continued to play, filling the room with its eerie resonance. The date, December 11th, 2022, felt surreal, like I was trapped between past and present. I decided to investigate further. The letters next to the photographs seemed like a good place to start. They were yellowed with age, the ink faded, but still legible. As I read through them, I realized they were written by former staff members, describing strange occurrences at the school. Whispers in the night, ghostly apparitions, and unexplained phenomena were common themes. One letter in particular caught my attention. It was written by a security guard named Henry, who mentioned hearing music late at night, just like I was now. He described following the sound to the music room, only to find the same record player and vinyl spinning. Henry's account mirrored my own experience, down to the feeling of being watched and finding old photographs. A chill ran down my spine as I realized that Henry had disappeared shortly after writing the letter. His final entry mentioned a door that appeared in the basement, a door that led to a place that should not exist. My curiosity was now mixed with a growing sense of dread. I had to find out what happened to Henry and what this all meant. Leaving the music room, I headed toward the basement. The school's layout was familiar, but tonight it felt like a maze. Each step echoed in the empty hallways, amplifying my anxiety. As I descended the stairs, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to deepen. The faint smell of damp earth filled my nostrils, and I knew I was getting closer. At the bottom of the stairs, I found a door that I'd never noticed before. It was old and wooden, with strange symbols carved into its surface. The symbols looked similar to those in Henry's letter, and my heart raced as I reached for the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a dark passageway that seemed to stretch on forever. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside, determined to uncover the truth. The darkness in the passageway was almost tangible, pressing in from all sides. My flashlight cut through the blackness, illuminating old cobwebs and dusty floors. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and something else, something more unsettling that I couldn't quite identify. I moved cautiously, each step echoing ominously. As I ventured deeper, I noticed the walls were lined with old photographs and clippings, similar to those I had found in the music room. They depicted scenes from the school's history, but many of the faces were blurred or scratched out. One photograph, in particular, caught my eye. It showed a group of students standing outside the school, their eyes eerily blank. My anxiety grew with each passing moment. The passage seemed to twist and turn, leading me further away from the familiar parts of the school. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes were tracking my every move. The air grew colder, and my breath fogged in front of me. Suddenly, I heard faint footsteps behind me. I spun around, shining my flashlight back down the passage, but there was nothing there. The footsteps stopped as abruptly as they had started, leaving only the echo of my pounding heart. I pressed on, determined to reach the end and uncover the mystery that had drawn me here. After what felt like an eternity, the passage opened into a large, dimly lit chamber. In the center of the room stood an old, ornate mirror, its surface covered in dust and grime. The mirror seemed out of place, like it belonged in a grand mansion rather than a school's basement. I approached it cautiously, feeling a strange pull. As I wiped the dust from the mirror, my reflection stared back at me, but something was off. The room behind me in the reflection was different, brighter, cleaner, almost like a different time. And then I saw it, a shadowy figure standing just behind my reflection, watching me. I spun around, but the chamber was empty. Turning back to the mirror, the figure was gone, leaving only my pale, frightened face. My heart raced as I stood before the mirror, its cold surface reflecting a reality that seemed to blend the past and present. The shadowy figure's presence had left me shaken, but I couldn't turn back now. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves, and continued to examine the chamber. The walls were lined with shelves filled with old books and artifacts. Each item seemed to hold a piece of the school's mysterious history. As I looked closer, I found a journal similar to the one I had discovered earlier. This journal belonged to Henry, the security guard who had disappeared. His entries were filled with detailed accounts of the strange events he had witnessed. Henry's last entry was particularly chilling. He described following the music to this very chamber and encountering the same mirror. He wrote about the shadowy figure and how it seemed to be a guardian of some dark secret. His final words were a warning. The mirror holds the key, but beware what you seek. Some truths are better left hidden. Determined to understand the truth, I turned back to the mirror. The air around me grew colder, and the room seemed to darken. I felt an overwhelming urge to touch the mirror, to see beyond the surface. My hand trembled as I reached out, and the moment my fingers brushed the glass, a shock of cold electricity shot through me. The reflection rippled like water, and suddenly, I was no longer in the dimly lit chamber. The room around me was bright and bustling with life. Students and teachers moved about, laughing and talking, completely unaware of my presence. I realized I was seeing the school as it had been decades ago, vibrant and full of energy. In the midst of the activity, I saw Henry, looking just as he did in his photograph. He was speaking with a group of students, his expression serious. I tried to call out to him, but no sound escaped my lips. I was a silent observer in this vision of the past. Henry suddenly turned, looking directly at me, his eyes filled with a mix of warning and sadness. As quickly as it had come, the vision faded, and I was back in the cold, dark chamber. My reflection in the mirror was just me again, alone and confused. The shadowy figure was nowhere to be seen, but I felt its presence lingering. The truth of the school's dark history was clearer now, but it had only deepened the mystery. The vision of the past lingered in my mind as I stood before the mirror. My reflection, now a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lay hidden within the school. Henry's warning echoed in my thoughts. Some truths are better left hidden. I felt a shiver run down my spine, but I knew I had to see this through. I turned away from the mirror and noticed another door in the chamber, partially concealed by shadows. My curiosity was now a mix of fear and determination. With a deep breath, I approached the door and pushed it open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. In the center of the room was an old wooden chest, its surface covered in dust and cobwebs. As I approached the chest, the air grew colder, and the whispers returned, more insistent than ever. My hands trembled as I opened the chest, revealing its contents: a collection of old yellow documents and a small, ornate box. The documents were records of the school's history, detailing events that had been long forgotten. The box, however, drew my attention the most. I picked up the box, feeling its weight in my hands. It was intricately carved with the same symbols I had seen throughout the passages. Slowly, I opened it, revealing a key inside. The key was unlike any I had seen before, ancient and covered in strange engravings. As I held it, a sense of understanding washed over me. The key was connected to the school's darkest secret, a truth that had been buried for decades. I knew that using it would reveal everything, but at what cost? The whispers grew louder, urging me to proceed, but Henry's warning still echoed in my mind. Some truths were better left hidden, and I had to decide whether to uncover them or leave them in the shadows. Taking a deep breath, I made my decision. I closed the box and placed it back in the chest. Some mysteries, I realized, were meant to remain unsolved. The school had its secrets, and perhaps it was better that way. As I turned to leave the room, the whispers faded, replaced by a profound silence. I retraced my steps through the passageway, the air growing warmer as I neared the basement. The sense of being watched had lifted, and I felt a strange peace settle over me. I climbed the stairs back to the main floor, leaving the mysteries of the past behind. As I exited the school, the night air felt fresh and liberating. The date, December 11th, 2022, would always be etched in my memory as the night I chose to leave some secrets undisturbed. The school stood silently behind me, its dark history still hidden in the shadows, and I felt a sense of closure. Some mysteries, I realized, were better left to the darkness. The night was cool as I began my shift, the quiet of the school grounds feeling more pronounced than usual. The stillness seemed to seep into the building, making every creak and whisper more unsettling. As I made my rounds, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The date, September 9th, 2023, would be etched in my memory as the night everything changed. The hallways were dimly lit, casting long, eerie shadows that danced with my every movement. I had always felt safe patrolling the school, but tonight was different. As I turned a corner, I noticed a faint flickering light coming from the end of the corridor. My curiosity piqued. I approached cautiously, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. At the end of the hallway, I found a small, locked box sitting on a desk. It looked old, the metal tarnished, and the lock rusted. I tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. A sense of frustration mixed with anticipation gnawed at me. I needed to find the key. The box seemed to call to me, promising answers to questions I hadn't yet asked. As I searched for the key, I heard a faint, eerie sound echoing through the halls. It was the unmistakable sound of a child's laughter. My heart raced as I followed the sound, each step feeling heavier than the last. The laughter led me to an old classroom that hadn't been used in years. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing a room filled with forgotten desks and dusty textbooks. The laughter stopped abruptly as I entered the room. My flashlight flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. In the center of the room, I saw a small figure, a child, standing motionless. My breath caught in my throat as I took a step closer, but in the blink of an eye, the figure was gone. The room was empty, save for the echo of that haunting laughter. Determined to uncover the truth, I continued my search for the key. The feeling of unease grew stronger, and the school's atmosphere seemed to thicken with each passing minute. I knew I was getting closer to something significant, something that would explain the strange events of the night. But with each step, I couldn't shake the sense of impending doom that hung over me like a dark cloud. The eerie laughter echoed in my mind as I continued my search. The school's atmosphere grew heavier, each shadow seeming to hide secrets. The date, September 9th, 2023, felt more ominous with each passing minute. My flashlight flickered again, casting unsettling patterns on the walls. In the old classroom, I noticed something I had missed before. A small, faded photograph pinned to the corkboard. It showed a young girl with a bright smile, standing in front of the school. The back of the photo had a date scribbled on it, September 9th, 1983. The coincidence sent a chill down my spine. I pocketed the photo and resumed my search for the key. As I moved deeper into the school, I found myself drawn to the basement. The air grew colder, and the silence was punctuated by the occasional creak and groan of the old building. I reached the basement door and hesitated, a sense of dread settling over me. But curiosity pushed me forward, and I descended the narrow stairs. The basement was musty and dark, filled with old supplies and forgotten memories. As I searched through the clutter, my flashlight caught a glint of metal. Hidden behind a stack of old textbooks, I found a small, ornate key. My heart raced as I picked it up, its cold surface sending a shiver through me. This had to be the key to the box. With the key in hand, I hurried back to the locked box, my footsteps echoing in the empty halls. The school's oppressive atmosphere seemed to follow me, growing more intense with each step. I reached the desk where the box sat and inserted the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, and the lid creaked open. Inside the box were a collection of old letters and a locket. The letters were fragile, the paper yellowed with age. As I carefully unfolded one, I recognized the handwriting from the photograph, letters written by the young girl. They spoke of her time at the school, her friends, and the strange occurrences she had witnessed. The last letter was dated September 9th, 1983, the day she disappeared. A sense of sadness washed over me as I read her words. The final letter described hearing laughter and seeing shadows, much like my own experiences. The locket contained a small portrait of the girl and her parents, a reminder of a life cut short. As I closed the box, the oppressive atmosphere seemed to lift slightly, but the sense of unease remained. Holding the locket in my hand, I felt a deep connection to the girl who had vanished so many years ago. Her letters painted a picture of a life filled with joy and mystery, abruptly ended by something beyond my understanding. The date, September 9th, 2023, seemed to echo with the past, intertwining our fates. I left the classroom and made my way back to the basement. There had to be more to uncover, more pieces to this unsettling puzzle. The stairs creaked under my weight, and the cold air wrapped around me like a shroud. The basement was even darker than before, and my flashlight struggled to cut through the gloom. In the far corner of the basement, I noticed a section of the wall that seemed different. The bricks were newer, as if they had been replaced. My instincts told me this was significant. I searched the area, finding a loose brick. With some effort, I pried it loose, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a small, dusty journal. The journal belonged to the school's former janitor, who had worked there during the 1980s. His entries detailed strange occurrences, whispers, laughter, and shadows that moved on their own. He wrote about a secret room hidden in the basement, a place where he believed the school's dark history was buried. His final entry was chilling. "I've sealed the room. No one must ever enter. The girl is lost, but her spirit remains." Determined to uncover the truth, I searched the basement for any sign of the hidden room. I found a faint outline on the floor, indicating a trapdoor. Using the janitor's journal as a guide, I located the hidden latch and pulled it open. The air that wafted up was cold and stale, filled with the scent of decay. As I descended into the hidden room, the temperature dropped even further. My flashlight flickered, and I could hear the faint sound of the girl's laughter echoing around me. The room was small, filled with old toys and personal belongings. In the center of the room was a small bed, neatly made, as if waiting for its occupant to return. A profound sadness washed over me. The girl's spirit was trapped here, unable to move on. I placed the locket on the bed, hoping it would bring her some peace. As I did, the laughter faded, replaced by a sense of calm. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the room seemed brighter, as if the girl's spirit had finally found rest. With a heavy heart, I left the hidden room and closed the trapdoor behind me. The school felt different now, less foreboding. I knew the girl's spirit was at peace, but the weight of the mystery still lingered. The date, September 9th, 2023, would forever be a reminder of the night I uncovered the school's darkest secret and brought a measure of peace to a lost soul.